Hello friends and welcome back to another Creativity Cure DIY. Today I'm bringing you a fun and practical DIY project. We're going to be making upcycled cork coasters for plants. Now, if you are like me and just managed to fall into every plant trend that there is, you probably have a fiddly fig, a ficus, and mine has grown to ginormous proportions that has just outgrown its pot and in desperate need of a new one. Now, the ones I found are great, but they don't have any trays on the bottom or saucers on the bottom. And I think they're originally made for being outdoors. So I figured, you know what, let me just try to make my own. Since I couldn't find any that were large enough in the home improvement stores, I think the biggest they come in were 12-inch, and I needed minimum 14-inch. So I kind of did a little bit of research, and I found that if you just use basic rubber shelf liner, like I'm showing you here, and a little bit of cork and a little bit of manipulated felt for the bottom, you can make these awesome plant coasters in any size that you need. So I'm just starting out here by tracing this pot to get the exact measurements, and I'm going to use a Stabilo Marked All pencil, and I love this pencil. It's for art. I use it mainly for art journaling because it writes on anything like glossy surfaces. It'll write over glue. It'll write over glossy paint, and I figured it'd be perfect to use for this. But you can obviously use anything you want just to kind of mark the rubber. And like I said, this is a 14-inch bottom on the pot. And I just couldn't find anything in any kind of garden center or home improvement store by me that was large enough without being made for outdoors and it wasn't movable. And I needed something especially because I need to move my plant in the winter so it gets enough sun. So I'm going to list all the supplies you need below. This right here is wool I got from a fabric store, Joann's. And it's basically just, the white one is 100% wool and the black is a mixture of rayon and wool. I know that I needed to felt the wool, which is a process where it makes the wool kind of more thick and dense. So I figured I would try a 100% wool and a wool blend, because the wool blend I know is going to shrink a little bit less. I know that 100% wool shrinks a lot. So I'm measuring, I only need it to be 14, but I'm measuring 18 inches on each one. So to give a little leeway on the shrinkage. And if any of you have ever washed and dried a wool sweater, which I may or may not have done by accident when I was in college and didn't know any better, and I think it was literally one of the most expensive pieces of clothing I had ever bought. It was a Dolce & Gabbana sweater. I remember this. And I wore it once, washed it, dried it, and pulled it out of the dryer, and it was infant size. I learned that yes, wool you cannot. Yes, it's definitely. I'm still traumatized by it, but anyway, so we're gonna basically do the same thing here, but on purpose, and it's called felting the wool, and we're just gonna use a little bit of detergent and very, very, very hot water. And what this is going to do is it's going to agitate the fibers of the wool, and it's going to shrink them and pull them all together to make a thicker, denser. And I'm going to throw in some dryer balls just to make it agitated a little bit more to get those fibers all kind of going. And just a regular wash cycle. That's all you need. And then you're done. And so the white 100% wool, it started out as 18 inches. And Um, I figured it would shrink a little bit, so I wanted to give it enough room. So so you can see it's a little bit, it's a little bit over 18. But after it came out of the dryer, this is what it looked like. I know. Crazy, right? That's basically what my sweater looked like after it was done being dried. Um, this it it did what it's supposed to do, which is great, but it shrunk a lot more than I was anticipating. So, I mean, it kind of, I don't know, kind of resembles like a chicken, like a chicken body. I don't know. But yeah, so it shrunk a lot. So I'm just going to use this piece for a project that I need for something else, or maybe for a smaller coaster. But you can see how thick the wool is, the felted wool is now compared to the original. The original you could kind of see through. This one is so thick you can't see through. And this is perfect for the bottom of the coaster, so it will slide easily across the wood floors. I think I measured it came to what, 8 inches from 18, so that's a lot of shrinkage. So the other one was the blend, and the other one was I believe it was something like 60% rayon, 40% wool, and I got that from Joanne. So I knew that the black one wasn't going to shrink as much. So this one, like I said, I'm saving it. I was surprised by the shrinkage, but the black one was perfect. It actually shrank to almost a perfect 14 inches, which is what I needed. See how much it shrinks? Isn't that crazy? It's a lot. But this one ended up being perfect. I ended up being able to stretch it out to a nice 14-inch size, and it was still thick and durable and perfect. So we're going to use cork, like I said, for the top. And cutting cork is a lot easier if you actually steam or boil, if you steam the corks first. So just take your corks, dump them, make like a little makeshift steamer like I did here with a strainer and a pot. Throw the corks in, let them steam about 10-15 minutes, or you can boil them, but after you boil them, you have to dry them, because they'll get a little bit of the water. So if you steam them, I don't know, I just went with the steaming method instead. So now when you're cutting the corks, you want to use a super sharp knife, because the trick of cutting anything is having a sharp knife. Now I found that cutting the corks was still a little bit more challenging than I had anticipated. And if any of you have any doubts about if you can safely cut corks, they make sheet cork, like for bulletin boards. You can easily just buy that from an office supply store, or I'll actually put a link for that also in Amazon. You just need like basically a 1/4 inch thick sheet of cork. It comes rolled up. These were, even though they were a lot softer than they are when they're not hot and steamed, I thought, see, that's right there, example of what you should not do when cutting something. You should let the knife, Culinary School 102 is let the knife do all the work. Don't force it. But the corks I found were a little bit harder to cut than I thought. So if you have any doubts, go with the sheet cork. So I'm taking the vinyl and I'm cutting it out. I'm going to cut it just to a little bit smaller than the actual circle, just so it kind of is a little bit hidden underneath the cork. And I'll just speed it up so you don't have to watch me cut. And what I want to do, what you should do actually whenever you're using any kind of sealant or glue, you want to wipe down the surface with some rubbing alcohol, because it'll take away any residue that's left or that's there, any kind of little pieces of dust or like greasy parts, or even prints, and the rubbing alcohol helped the glue adhere better. So I decided to go with Flex Seal, which I had never used Flex Seal glue before. And let me tell you, this sucker is hard to squeeze. I mean, you really got to squeeze this stuff out. I wanted to try it. I read some good reviews about it, that it really holds and it's waterproof. So I figured, hey, why not? Because I needed something that's going to grab the cork right away and, not take forever to dry. So this seemed to be perfect. So just take the corks and start placing them around the perimeter, around the circumference, the edge. You want to put it around the edge of the circle. And the Flex Seal is waterproof, which is great, so the water doesn't seep out, and it will hold the cork. It will bind to the cork really quickly. So you don't have to, weight down. There's, some products like the Gorilla Glue work really well, but you have to clamp them down because they expand into the material, and otherwise it'll just push the material up and away. So you need something to an opposing force. So I thought, why not try Flex Seal? Well, it turns out that for me, at least, the Flex Seal was super, super, super hard to squeeze. I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, and you're thinking, how could it be that hard to squeeze that out of a tube? But I thought it was really hard to squeeze. So I put down a couple pieces of the cork, and I must say the Flex Seal did work really well, exactly what it was supposed to do. And they do make a Flex Seal in a larger bottle that you can use with a caulking gun, but it was white and I wanted clear, so I went with the clear. So we're basically just finishing the edge of the coaster by cutting the cork, and now we're going to work inside to just place the cork in a kind of spiral pattern until the entire thing is filled. So now the Flex Seal really did grip it pretty well. Right now it's pretty much glued to the for the most part glued to the rubber material. But I thought there is no way I'm going to be able to do this whole entire thing squeezing out Flex Seal. So I went with regular old silicone, which you can buy. It's a lot cheaper actually than the Flex Seal. It's like $3 compared to $15. I was afraid initially to use it because it's not specifically used as an adhesive. It's used as a crack sealer. So I didn't know how well it would adhere, but it actually did. It did as well of a job, I thought, as the Flex Glue did. So it's just basically it is 100% pure silicone that's in a caulking gun. You just squeeze it out and it grabs and glues, I thought, just as well as the Flex Glue. So just continue your way, and it's a lot easier to squeeze out. I mean, it's not even a comparison, the difference. So just keep going all the way around until you have all your pieces of cork, and you might have to cut some pieces if the whole pieces don't fit. You'll want to cut, to make them fit. I love these scissors by Tonic because they basically last forever and they cut anything. The new ones don't have red handles. The newer ones have black handles. I'll actually put a link for them below also if you want to get them. They come in like a larger 9-inch size too, but they're like really, in like the art world, they're like the scissor to have because in the art crafting world, they'll just cut anything and they stay sharp forever and they're easy to use. They're ergonomically designed. So the silicone grabbed, binded, glued, as well as it did exactly what I wanted it to do. So I'm flipping it over now, and I'm just using regular Eileen's tacky glue, which is just PV. I always want to say PVC. It's not PVC. It's PVA glue. Polyvinyl acrylic, the white glue. It's basically white school glue. But the Eileen's is it's like tacky. So when you adhere something to it, it grabs it right away, and it won't like slide around or fall off. And I just went around the whole entire thing, and I used there you go, a foam brush to brush on the glue. The Aleene's is very thick, but you can water it down a little bit if you need to. Now the bottom just needed to glue the felt to the rubber, so it didn't need to be waterproof, or it didn't need to be super durable like the top I wanted. I wanted the top to make sure it was no water, nothing's getting through the top. A little bit of water gets on this thing, I don't want it going through. But the bottom, as long as it adhered, it's great. So the Aleene's glue is perfect. Or you can just use Elmer's glue, it doesn't really matter. Just make sure you get a good seal, brush it on, and just give it about, I wouldn't even say a day to dry. I would say you can even just use a couple hours for it to dry, and it'll be good. And I'm speeding this up a little bit. Painting the glue, painting, and just adhering, just using basic hand pressure just to glue it on. Or you can use something to weight it down, put something on top of it to weight it if you want. And that's basically it. Then you can just use any kind of, you can even use scissors. I use this rotary cutter. Did I say color? Rotary cutter, which by the way are super cool if you've never used one. They're really popular amongst people that quilt. I didn't know what they were. I had no idea what a rotary cutter was or did. It looked kind of cool. So when I first discovered it, I'm like, wow, this actually really does cut really well. It cuts as good as an X-Acto knife. And you can cut straight lines, curved lines. It stays sharp. It's super safe. And it's just, you can buy them in a couple different sizes. I think the one I'm using here is just a smaller size, a rotary cutter made by Fiskars. And I'm just cutting all the excess wool felt away. Now, I have to say this project was a little bit labor intensive, so it might not be for everybody. As many of you guys know, many of you, with invisible conditions such as autoimmune, fibromyalgia, etc., you'll sometimes get bursts of energy throughout your day, or this is a project for one of those times, because you're definitely going to need a little bit of energy. And it does take a couple days, but it's fun and it's worth it if you can do it. And I found that it held up really well. It slid very well. It did exactly what I wanted. All that's left is for me to replant my Fiddle Leaf Fig into its new larger pot, and I can slide it all around. And that's it for today's project. Thank you so much for stopping by. I love you guys. Please make sure you subscribe to The Creativity Cure and thumbs up, a like, and I will talk to you guys again next time. Bye.